everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Helen and today I thought I would do for you my January wrap up. You'll have to excuse the hair, I've literally had to quickly put it into a pony at the side of my head because there's so much static. My lovely Auntie Sheila bought me this jacket for my birthday, but I've just put it on and the static's created something in my hair and it's doing weird things, so this is just gonna have to do. So January I read 10 books. I thought I would go through what I read and what I thought of them. There is nothing below a 3-star, so that was good news. There were some disappointing reads in there, but there were also some really good ones. So without further ado, I will talk you through them. The first one was The Island Murders by Rachel McLean. You'll have to excuse me if I'm looking down, that's where my notes are. So this series is one that I am now up to book 4 on. It's called the Dorset Crime Series. That's why I picked it. I love the area of Dorset, in particular like Bournemouth and Poolway, and this is set in those areas. It's basically about a policewoman called DCI Leslie Clark, and she's basically moved to Dorset and she's heading up this team who they're having to negotiate their characters because they're used to working one for a male. There's been a history there. Her predecessor died and it's in suspicious circumstances, and that's in the background of this series by the look of it. Like, they're going to start investigating what happened there, but she's doing it hush hush because the team, she gets the impression that the team there don't want it to be investigated, or at least the head boss doesn't want it to be. And so it's all very suspicious, and there's definitely this dangerous element running in the background. But it's basically not a cozy mystery, but I feel cozy reading it because it's not too thrillerish. Sorry, ish to at the end of every word, that's annoying. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this series. It's enough of a thriller mystery to keep me entertained, but not to kind of put me off reading it because it's a bit scary in parts for me. But I'm interested to see how that backstory runs. But obviously each time there's murder, it reminds me a bit of Death in Paradise in the way it all happens. In that when I watch that on telly, that obviously it starts off with a murder, but that's the only bit that's a bit like, oh, something bad's happened, and then the rest of it can be quite comedic or light-hearted. So yeah, if you like that area of the country and you are looking for something like that, then go for it. I can imagine this is a TV series. I'd love it if they did that one day, but I've already got a pile of books up till book 9 or 10, so it goes on for a while. And then she's got other spin-off series with like DCSI Leslie Clark came from Birmingham, so there's one set in that story with her ex-colleague Zoe Finch. So yeah, it was really enjoyable. I gave it 4 stars and I think I'm just going to love this series. The next one that I read was The Book Lovers Retreat by Heidi Swain. This is a romance. It's about 3 friends who decide to book on to they booked onto this retreat years ago. There's such a waiting list for it because the retreat and the little cottage where it is like the setting for a movie that they're all obsessed with. These friends are meant to be going. One of the friends can't go anymore, so they kind of have to put it out there for somebody else to join them, and the person who joins them isn't what they expected. It was really good. I just gave it 3 stars because it was okay. Nothing massive really happened. I kind of knew where it was going to go. So yeah, it was an easy read. I think if you like Heidi Swain, if you like romance, then this is the one for you. If you like books, if you like cozy getaways. I got this in a Secret Santa on Twitter, and I loved that aspect of it. We all opened them on Christmas Eve and we all got a sweet treat with it. So yeah, very good. Next, I read American Royals by Katharine McGee. I was gifted this ages ago and I wasn't picking it up, and I don't know why. Because I absolutely loved this and gave it 5 stars. I've put that it reminds me very much of the Selection series by Kiera Cass, Gossip Girl and The Crown. So if you like any of those things, I think you'll really enjoy this. I think that I might be wrong. I'm listening to the second one on audiobook now, and the voice of the narrator of this reminds me very much of the narrator of the Selection series, so I would be very surprised if it's not the same narrator. I'm slowly going through that one. I suppose I do like it a little less because the relationships that were kind of disallowed in the first one I hoped would be resolved and carry on into the second, but they're not. I can't say too much because I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's slow going. But I'm slow going with it because I'm now trying to do Platonic-a-thon at the same time, and this doesn't fall into any of the categories. I suppose I could do one for family and carry on with that one. I might do. But I also started reading the Christmas Carols, the third book, with Sophie over Christmas, and we've got halfway through and she's kind of stalled with it. So I might want to finish that for family and get that off my shelves. So yeah, this is a definite must read. I don't know how many are in the series. I know there's at least 3, but like I say, I'm on the second one. So 5 star. The next was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I absolutely loved The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I thought Daisy Jones and the Six was okay, and I am going to say that I preferred this to Daisy Jones and the Six, but I liked it less than Evelyn Hugo. It is set in the 1980s. It's about a family who are quite well off, but they're all into surfing. This got 4 stars because I love her writing, but it didn't get 5 stars. And I am going to include a spoiler here, so if you haven't read it and you're going to then like turn this off now and move on to the next book. The fire that happened in the end, and it built up to this fire from the beginning and went all the way through, I thought there was going to be more death and destruction, and because there wasn't, that was disappointing. Because it's fictional characters, I don't feel sad saying that I wanted somebody to perish in the fire so that it felt more dramatic. The fact that they all disappeared and that's not what happened, just I think it was more that it was set up from the beginning. If it didn't suggest there was going to be a fire and then we got to the end and there was a fire, I think you'd still have that element of I wonder what's going to happen, but you wouldn't be as disappointed, whereas this was set up as if this was going to be a big thing and then it didn't. So there was enough drama there to keep me going, enough suspense to make me wonder if that was going to happen, but ultimately at the end I was disappointed because I just thought there'd be more comeback from it. Yeah, so that was a long-winded way of saying love the writing, definitely want to read more of her stuff. Now, because I know the characters run through, I kind of wish I could go back. Well, I could if I wanted to, and I might do with Evelyn Hugo because I liked it that much. But go through all the books to see the different characters mentioned. Like Carrie Soto is mentioned in this one, and I know she's got Carrie Soto is back, so that might be the next one I pick up. I know there's another one called After I Do, I think it is, and it's about marriage. I really fancy that one as well. So yeah, definitely more Taylor Jenkins Reid for me. Have I missed any out? No. So the next I read The Boy at the Back of the Class by Anjali Kureuf. I think that's how you say it. I've had this on my shelves for ages. I picked it up in the supermarket one time when I was out shopping. I thought this was really sweet, and I thought it's a lovely message, and we could learn a lot from children. That I know some children do judge, but most children don't judge other children. They just want to make friends and play together, and I think that's lovely, and there's a lot of adults that could learn a lot from children. But it was quite basic. I mean, I know it's only a middle grade. When I say only middle grade, I read loads of middle grade, so I'm not saying only middle grade, but I know it wasn't going to be really complex themes or anything like that. But I just thought it was okay in terms of it was sweet, it was nice, but it needed a bit more grit or something more to it for me to give it a higher rating than 3 stars. But it's something I would want to read with Sophie eventually, and I think a lot of parents would do well to maybe read this with their children. So that was cute. The next one was quite a disappointing one. Murder in the Family by Cara Hunter. I gave this 3 stars. I think the reason I was so disappointed with it is because it was so hyped and I loved the idea of it. It reminded me in the vein, or before I read it, I was thinking that it would be something like A Girl's Guide to Murder, because in that one they were talking about, there was the podcast and then the different transcripts, and there was all kinds of different media in that book, and this tried to do similar, but I just don't think it pulled it off. There was a bit of a twist in it that I probably wouldn't have seen coming, but again, I think it just fell a bit flat towards the end, and I felt like the ending was quite rushed. And so yeah, I enjoyed it, but not enough to be like that can be a 4 or a 5 star. So I think sometimes I'm best either avoiding hyped books altogether, or doing what I normally do, especially with TV series, and reading them ages after the hype has died down. Because if they're hyped and I go to read it and it's not living up to the hype, the star rating is never going to be up there, unfortunately. Next, I read Dear Justice by Nick Stone. I read Dear Martin possibly in lockdown and really, really enjoyed it. I gave that 5 stars. I gave this 5 stars again. I just find it really eye-opening when I read stories like this, and definitely this catch-22 feeling of somebody being caught up in a gang, them being the found family, and so feeling that loyalty to that group and then feeling in debt. For example, in this is kind of a spoiler. While this lad is in prison, his found family in this gang look after his real family for him and make sure they're cared for and that the shopping is bought for them. And so in trying to get out of this gang and live a different life and be supported by people who genuinely want him to do well for his future, he still feels that debt of loyalty to the people who looked after his family. And so that is very much a catch-22 of somebody wanting to make a better life for themselves, but also not wanting to forget that people looked after the people that he really loved in his life. And so, yeah, I find books like this disturbing in the fact that what people of colour can experience every day in their life compared to somebody who is white is just shocking, and you don't understand until you read stuff like this and watch films and programs like this to really get a grasp on what it must be like to live like that every day. So Nick Stone, I've now read Dear Martin, Dear Justice, and I read Odd One Out. I know she's got other books, so she's going to be an author that I read all of the backlist. The same with Taylor Jenkins Reid. So yeah, 5 stars. Definitely go and read Dear Martin and Dear Justice. I hope there's more to come. I don't know if there is in that series, but yeah, there are certain authors that I will be reading all of. Nick Stone, Taylor Jenkins Reid. I need to get onto Jasper Ford's new series, The Shades of Grey, and then there's a new one out called Something to Do with Red, and I haven't given that one a go, but I loved the Air Affair and the Thursday Next series. It's so much so that I need to go back and read that. I'm sure I've read that through twice. So The Dinner Guest is the next one by B.P. Walter. This has been sat on my shelves for ages. I got this from, I apologise if I just keep doing this in the rough. There it is. I bought this off Waterstones quite a few years ago. I gave this 3 stars. I haven't really put much about it. This is another one where I could see what the author was trying to do, and you thought it was going to go one way and then it wasn't quite how you expected it to be. I suppose this was quite similar to Murder in the Family for me, the same kind of level. Yeah, I sometimes feel like the authors are trying to be too clever, and actually sometimes that might take away a bit from the story. Maybe they're trying to focus on too many different things, because I feel like with Murder in the Family I really felt like I knew where that was going to go, and then it kind of went off, and I feel like this did similar. And sometimes I think people just want it to go the way they anticipate, as much as sometimes I don't think they can win, because I think some people, if it goes exactly how they want it, they think it's going to go, they're like, oh, I guess that from the beginning. But then sometimes I think if it goes totally off piste and you think, how did they even get to this point, then you're disappointed because you're like, it could have just been the other way and I'd have been just as happy. So yeah, worth a read. I wouldn't say don't, but I think sometimes I read some of the reviews and think, oh, that sounds really good, and then it's not for me. And so I've got two more to mention. Mrs. Hart's Marriage Bureau. This was let me think now, set in 1930s Britain. It was laid as a romance. I had to review it for something. I read it in ebook form because I didn't have the physical format. And you know how I feel about ebooks, but I had to read this in a couple of days because it needed to be reviewed quite quickly. It was being shortlisted, and so it made me pick it up in that format. But you know what? I give it 4 stars. I wasn't disappointed. I love books about dating, and I like books about matchmaking, and so this fell into my hands and I was pleasantly surprised. If you've ever seen The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Netflix, I think it used to be on Netflix, no, Amazon Prime, that was like a 5 or 6 season series, really good. But the mother in that started to dabble in matchmaking, and I feel like this would have fit in well with that. Although that was set in the 50s, this is in the 30s. I think if you'd have wrote a book just on Miriam Maisel's mum and that matchmaking side of things, this would have been the book that you would have written. So it's like historical fiction. But yeah, 4 stars if you like romance, if you like dating, if you like matchmaking. This was really lovely. And the final one that I read was The Wild Silence by Raina Wynn. This was a non-fiction travel book. It was the same lady who wrote The Salt Path, and the 3rd book in that series, which I've got still to read, is Landlines. So in the first one, a husband is basically given a terminal diagnosis for like a brain nerve kind of disease, where he'll slowly just decline, and they can already see it happening. And so they become homeless, which is really stressful, and they decide to just walk the coastal path, which was like 600 and odd miles. But it really helps his body and keeps him alert and keeps his body more able to do things. And so they saw the benefits. So then in this second book, you're leading with him starting to decline again because they're back living in a house. And so they start doing up a farm, and then they go, 2 of the people they met on the Salt Path, they decide to go travelling with them again, but they go to Iceland and they do a walk there, which is a lot more treacherous. It's shorter, but a lot more to it. And again, they can see the benefits. A lot of people online were quite harsh about this second book because they feel like she's just trying to cash in on her husband's illness. I didn't feel that way. They felt like there wasn't much to this story, whereas I felt like that first one very much focused on the diagnosis and then walking the Salt Path. And then this one focused on setting up this new home on this farm and all to do with nature, and it went back into her past life and why she loved nature so much and her relationship with her husband and how that started. And then this very different Iceland trip, and I loved that aspect of it. So I don't think she's trying to cash in at all. And to be quite frank, if they've been made hopeless and they're going through this really treacherous, horrible time, I have no problem with them, if she's got a skill in writing, which she has, using that to gain some money. So Landlines, I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's tell me on the back where they're going next. The Cape Wrath Trail, and that's in Scotland. And me and Andy once were supposed to go and do wild camping in Scotland for 2 weeks back in, I want to say 2014, maybe 13, 14. And sadly, his nan was poorly. So we decided to hang back before we went, and then sadly she passed away. So we stayed at home and we weren't going to go away until his dad, whose mum it was, said, please carry on, please go and do it. And so we did the second week of that holiday. It's a holiday I will never forget. It was absolutely freezing. It poured down. We did do a couple of nights of wild camping, but we ended up staying in some like little B&Bs, and then we found this like, it wasn't a manor house, but it was like, it was quite a nice house that we just come across this one day. Asked if they had rooms. They did. It was a steal for what we got. The hosts were amazing, and one night Andy ended up sitting in the kitchen with them, and they were just, he just they just opened up their drinks cabinet, and he just sat in the kitchen while one of them smoked a cigar, and it was a really interesting time. There was log fires. At one point there was a blackout, and I'd gone back to bed because I'm not really into drinking, or so I'm in this old house in this bedroom on my own when all the lights went out. I used my torch on my phone to go and try and find Andy where he was in this kitchen. It was full of rooms in this house to get to him and say, "Are you coming to bed? Because this is a bit freaky." The whole bedroom that we were in was just chintz, like literally the wallpaper, the curtains, the inside drawer dividers, everything matched. I will never forget that holiday. It was come after such a horrible time. I didn't want to go away on that holiday. Like, if this was Andy's nan, but it really hit hard. We'd all spent time together in this hospital. It bonded us in a way, considering I was quite relatively new to the family. And so I will never forget that time. It was heartbreaking, but that holiday will just stick with me forever. And so I hope one day that we'll be able to go and do some wild camping again. Andy's more into it than I am. And it's weird because as a family, we went camping. I went camping as a child. When I talk about the Dorset Crime series, that's where we went camping. We went camping in Bournemouth most years. And so, yeah, I hope to do more travel and things like that now. So, yeah, just to say, so I gave that 4 stars. I can't wait to read the landlines. And so, yeah, I don't think she's cashing in. I think she's doing amazingly well considering what her and husband have been through and are going through and will go through in future. So let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if any of the authors I've mentioned, there are other books that I should maybe prioritise first. And I will speak to you soon. Bye.